welcome back
To Read the Room,
A Culture Club.
a podcast by
Alexys.
Kaylin.
and Larsen.
Today, our episode is on the phenomenon, dare I say the obsession,
I would
Of-
say obsession.
for
Yeah.
sure, of true crime media and true crime as a genre.
Based on the amount I had to hold back on the list of true crime podcasts, I would say phenomena for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that true crime is super fascinating. When I was thinking about just even how to define the genre, I realized that you can't really call it wholly fiction or entirely fact or true.
Mhm.
It's like toes this line of sensationalizing real life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's both fantasy and it's speculative. It's both not to be taken as real interpretations of crimes, and at the same time, the title of the genre is true crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the kind of mix between like fact and fiction is kind of where some of the ethics also come into play and the sensationalization. And this isn't necessarily true crime per se, but you kind of spoke about that in a previous episode talking about Carolyn Bessette Kennedy.
Yeah, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy on Ryan Murphy's American Love Story
Yes.
anthology series.
Yes, and just kind of like what is chosen to be part of the story, what is not chosen to be part of the story, how we're telling the story
Yeah.
greatly impacts at the type of genre of true crime. Like,
Yeah.
because there are subgenres of true crime.
Well, and I think more often than not, especially in modern media, we toe the line of morality
Mm-hmm.
and dip into the side of like, this is maybe not ethical.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Maybe not. And I
Mhm.
think that happens more and more often now because we love the drama.
For sure. I mean, I think that part of why it is a worthy topic to dive into is because of the complexity of the genre, the fact that it's not straightforward, the fact that there are ethical concerns that we'll get
Mhm.
into in this episode. And yet, despite all of that, it is so undeniably popular. And what's really interesting is that as a genre, it's stayed popular in an upward trend. Like it's experienced few dips in popularity. Its
Mhm.
time has gone on despite the waves of real crime rates or lack thereof.
Mhm.
There is still a love of this media. A study from the Edison Research Center from 2024 found that 84% of the US population ages 13 plus are true crime consumers on some level, meaning they watch or listen to true crime through some media. And 42% specifically of that same population listened to true crime podcasts.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's just a massive, massive audience that we're talking about here. The producers of the true crime podcast Serial revealed that their first series has been downloaded more than 211 million
Wow.
times. And Netflix's Making a Murder topped its 2018 list of most binged TV shows. There's so many TV channels, I'll talk about some later too, that are even just like wholly devoted.
Yeah, solely
Mhm.
dedicated
It's
to
It's all they
yeah.
run.
Mhm.
Yeah.
True crime all the time. So when we get into true crime, we are not talking about a genre that is unfamiliar to many people. We are talking about
Yeah.
a real pervasive trend and a type of story that clearly connects and draws a lot of people in. I thought that maybe we could start out by sharing, like, I think that everyone has a different level to which they've like maybe dabbled in true crime or know people that have dabbled in true crime. Like,
Mhm.
how much are you personally connoisseurs or not of the true crime genre?
Deeply entrenched. I would say my true crime consumption started at a young age, watching 48 hours on a Saturday evening with my family. Like, there's so many of those shows. I feel like that is like kind of it's a lot more investigative than a lot of the true crime currently. Is Law and Order true crime?
I think that Law and Order is like, when we talk about true crime in terms of genre, I think there's true crime that is procedural, like a
Mhm.
procedural drama where not every case is based off of a real case,
Yeah.
like a mini series about Dahmer or something, but where the procedural element is clearly inspired by true
Yeah.
true procedures.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does every case have to be based off of a specific event for it to be considered true crime, or is it just like crime as a genre? It's become true crime. That's just the name.
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly. I think
Okay.
true crime as a genre is expansive now, where it includes these totally dramatized crime procedurals and crime dramas. But I do know that some purists will say that true crime is specifically dramatized
Mm-hmm.
or documentary style media and literature about real crimes. And one piece of small evidence for that is actually Law and Order at some point came out with Law and Order True Crime,
Yeah.
Interesting.
where the
Which
episodes were based on real cases.
well, which is already funny because I mean I don't know about the other Law and Order franchises, but Law and Order SVU has historically been like true cases that are
Oh,
manipulating.
they'll do heavy inspiration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say, is there really any crime that hasn't
Oh, for
actually been done
sure.
before?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. There's not a lot of originality left.
For sure.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
why, like, I think we'll definitely like talk about the whole gamut of it
Mhm.
Yeah.
from your Law and Order SVU to your Dateline.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, other than that 48 hours though, I grew up folding laundry to NCIS, and I think by that definition NCIS is also a true crime. And I think that like we already mentioned Law and Order SVU, that's so prolific. I've done a lot of that consumption recently. What about you guys?
I came into true crime later in life. I
Mm,
feel like as a kid, wasn't really exposed to it that much. Like we didn't watch anything that I
too
can.
true crimey.
Yeah, not that I can think of.
Yeah.
Like if it has roots in true crime, it was then actually like a fantasy or a horror or something else that maybe like is a spin-off from the actual event, but wouldn't necessarily be considered true crime in the genre that I consumed it
Yeah.
Yeah.
as like a younger kid. But I feel like in high school is when I personally started getting into it, watching like Criminal Minds, which again is in
Oh,
that
Criminal
same
Minds. Yeah.
as like Law and Order NCIS. And actually the one show that I did watch as a kid was like CSI because
Yeah.
that was on TV at my grandma's house, and if we were there like in the morning before school, that would be on.
Oh.
Either that or Buffy. But in high school I feel like is where my interest in it really developed. And yeah, Criminal Minds and then BuzzFeed Unsolved really was like
Wow.
my gateway drug
Yeah.
to
As many a BuzzFeed
yeah.
production
I was
is.
like, I
Yeah.
remember that exposure those days.
But yeah, later in life, I guess.
Yeah.
What about you, Alexis?
It's really interesting because, like, when we started researching for this episode, I was like, okay, I don't really personally consider myself a true crime fan. I'm not a true crime fanatic. I'm not like in the cult, quote unquote. But then when I started like really thinking about it, I was like, wait, like, I've consumed a lot that I would consider under the true crime umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think it did start pretty young because of my parents. Like, my parents were not together, so I had separate experiences with each separate parent. My dad really loved CSI.
Mm-hmm.
And in my childhood bedroom, I had a TV, but it only had like a DVD VHS player. And we had CSI on box set because my dad
Iconic.
loved it.
Wow.
And so I would watch like copious amounts
Yeah.
of CSI episodes just like alone in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
my like background.
Yeah.
So my dad, it was like this love of CSI. And then eventually with my dad and my dad's family started watching Criminal Minds. Like, but that was like high school age. It was
Yeah.
already ingrained. Like I was like, this is normal. This is normal family
Yeah.
dinner
Yeah.
TV. But then my mom, hey mom, she is a little bit of like a wine mom.
Yeah.
And she is a wine and crime kind of gal.
Which is the name of a podcast.
Yeah. I remember like a kind of a nightly ritual for a long time when I would be visiting her would be that she'd have her glass of vino and she would turn on nondescript, like I couldn't even tell you the name, but these nondescript true crime documentaries, true crime TV specials. When Netflix came out, whatever like kind of trashy Netflix crime documentary was hot, she would turn them on for bed. Like it was like her wind
yeah.
down
Soothing.
television. No, she would joke about it with me. She would be like, I can't fall asleep without my murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have to say, I think I have to recant my previous statement because the more we're talking about it, the more I'm like, I'm pretty sure I wanted to be like a forensic analyst as a
Yes,
kid. Like,
yes.
actually, I might have wanted to be a crime scene
Oh
investigator.
my gosh, wait. I
You know,
actually
like Abby from NCIS, of
Yeah.
course.
that actually just like unlocked a memory for me that I hadn't even recalled yet, which is
Yeah.
that because my dad and I would watch so much CSI together, and because like they were like, she's watching it like alone in her bedroom, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
they got me one year for Christmas, my family, a kids forensic
I
set.
I had that too. I was literally just thinking
Dusting
that.
for
Yeah,
fingerprints,
exact. I had
a
that
black
too.
light.
I feel like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
won something like that through one of the like school fundraiser things. Like that was
Yeah.
the prize for like selling a certain amount of
Yes.
Yeah. There's like invisible ink in there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So yeah, I flat out lied. It didn't come later in life. It was
It's
from the
okay.
beginning.
These were recovered memories that we just had.
Yeah. This is actually, it feels like a really good time to mention, fun fact, modern day forensics. Like the fact that we as young girls all had little forensic play kits,
Yeah.
like actually makes so much sense because women specifically are powering modern day forensics. Forensic science is one of the few science careers where the vast majority of students are women.
Makes
Wow.
sense.
Yeah.
Attention to detail, baby.
There
Yeah.
were this was not always the case because for a long time forensic science, one, was barely even a thing,
Yeah.
and two, was just pretty much relegated to police only, which, as we know, is a predominantly male field. But when Washington DC began to civilianize forensic science work in 2012 by handing it over to an independent agency, there was the opportunity to do crime scene work without having to be a cop, and then the ratio of men to women drastically changed. The Washington, D.C. District's Department of Forensic Sciences has a director named Dr. Jennifer Smith, and she said it used to be 90% men in their forensic department, and now it's 70% women.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, like in maybe not every, in most shows like on that topic, it's Abby, it's Garcia, it's people
Yeah.
like these women behind the scenes, or like in Law and Order SVU, it's the coroner. It's most of the people who are doing the forensic work are women.
Are women, yeah. Which like makes sense on a sociological level, but also makes sense on a media level.
That's who's consuming it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's who's
yeah.
consuming it. One last thing on the forensic science like digression as a fun fact, because I was gagged when I learned this. It was not until 2017 that someone actually graduated college with a PhD in forensics.
Wow.
Huh.
That seems crazy.
Yeah.
Because it was like
Like a
something like that would have
PhD.
just fallen under like criminal studies.
Criminal studies, or like it was not its own study enough to warrant a PhD.
Yeah.
Or like for a long time, like forensic science was just really trained via like professional workshops. Like if you were a cop, you would go attend a 1-week seminar on
Yeah.
blood
Yeah.
You're not
splatter,
getting
right?
a degree in it.
Yeah.
You're going to a seminar. That makes sense.
It just has like taken that long for forensics to become its own field. But
Yeah.
I mean, clearly it's important that there were these female characters in at least the media that we were consuming.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just thought it was so interesting because I know that here right now in the present, none of us are like, I wouldn't look at any of us and say, oh, she's going to CrimeCon.
Yeah.
Maybe Kaylin.
I don't think I want to be with those people.
But at the same time, like clearly, even just talking about it a little, we kept having memory after memory. Like the roots of true crime runneth deep.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure does.
Yeah. Touches all of us. And speaking of roots, maybe we should talk a little bit about the history of the genre and how it kind of like exploded.
Yeah. Although it has had some sort of renaissance. This is not a new love of humans.
Well, I was gonna say I feel like
Dead humans.
yeah, I feel like humans are so morbidly curious.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's I want to say it's the Villisca Axe murders, which I did learn about through a true crime
Mm-hmm.
podcast. It's a Christmas Day murder. Entire families murdered. Town, small town, and I think the Midwest is like, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody walks through the home. They are taking
Mm-hmm.
pieces of brain. They're taking raisins off the Christmas cake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's like, I think early 1800s, maybe late 1800s. Clearly I pay a lot of attention when I listen to these things, but it is like this fascination runs so deep, and that's
Yeah.
only a couple hundred years ago.
I mean, we were 10 pages into the Bible when the first murder happened.
Yes.
Let's fast forward a little from there, though.
Yeah.
just a little tiny bit, just like 1500 years. So like between 1550 and 1700, British authors and printers produced a lot of different publications that reported on these true crime capital crimes, and this really coincides with like literacy rates expanding, which also the Bible, also the printing press, Bible, everything goes back to that. But all these little tiny true crime pamphlets that were unbound books, 6 to 24 pages, often had really, really horrific details that circulated during this era. And also, I mean, it goes back further than this. Now that I'm really thinking about it, we've been obsessed with hangings as long as we've done hangings. Like, is that not true crime?
Later than the time period you were just talking about, but like there was such a huge obsession with hangings, even much more recent than we think.
Oh, yeah.
Charles Dickens watched the hanging of Marie Manning, and after watching that hanging and see the spectacle of all these people just like going crazy over it, he said that, "I believe that a sight so inconceivably awful as the wickedness and levity of the immense crowd collected at that execution this morning could be imagined by no man and could be presented in no heathen land under the sun." And then he later went on to write Bleak House and has a character in that book that's kind of based off of Marie Manning. But he was just like so disgusted with the joy people were getting out of seeing a woman hang.
Yeah.
I mean, the history of crime and the history of true crime are not exactly the same, but obviously they are so interwoven, and
Yes.
humans' fascination with crime is as old as humanity itself.
Yeah.
Our need for justice or for revenge, our want to make someone the good guy and make someone the bad guy and see the bad guy punished, that fervor, it's like gladiatorial, right? It's why like people wanted to see people hung and drawn and quartered, and then at the same time there's a perverseness and a horror that we feel about it all. There's the fascination, the entertainment mixed in with that other sensation, that thing that Dickens was writing about, and it's that mix that probably really births the true crime genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to bring it back to the Bible again, but like, thou shalt not kill. Like, it's
It's the biggest bad, right?
yes, it's the biggest bad. We want justice for the big bad, and we want to see the justice for the big bad.
Thou shalt not kill, but if you kill, we'll kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eye for an eye.
No, that, I mean, it's not the Bible, but it's
Hammurabi's
Yeah.
code.
yes, yes, indeed it is.
But yeah, I mean, back to what you're saying though, like the ability to print stuff, the ability to get it out to the masses, that is probably where real true crime, the genre as we know it, emerged.
started.
Because
Yeah.
then like, yeah, you're putting it in newspapers, you're putting it in books. People that are distant from where the crime occurred can take it all in.
Yeah.
Something has to be there to anchor the fascination, to provide the entertainment, to consolidate the phenomenon. And once we have literature, we have kind of the first form that allows for that.
Yeah, because there weren't really any podcasts back in the 1400s.
No,
Unfortunately, no.
just the town's not
The
squire.
town crier.
Crier, there we
The
go.
town
Town crier on
crier.
his little box in the middle of the square.
Murder, hear all about it. Speaking of kind of a printing press and news, and moving from kind of 1700, when we kind of last left off with that big boom, we see that the literature, once it's established, oftentimes follows real life developments in crime rates, policing, detective work, eventually forensics. Of course, it makes sense as real things are happening with real crime. There are changes, peaks, and increases in true crime as a genre. For instance, there was set of murders in London's East End in 1811 called the Ratcliffe Highway Murders, where 7 people were slaughtered. And it was just one of those cases where, like, the details of the crime were so shocking.
Yeah.
It was so sudden, seemingly without cause. No one understood why. No one even knew where to start to solve the crime. That actually it became one of the impetuses for London creating their police force, because London, like most cities in Europe and North America, lacked formal police departments in the early 1800s. But by 1829, that first London force, the Metropolitan Police Force, was established. And shortly thereafter, big cities in North America like New York City followed.
It is crazy to me when you hear about like when police forces were established, how
Yeah.
late it is. Because I mean, you think about like London. London was a city for a long,
A long
time.
time.
Like it seems crazy. I mean, I know there was like King's Guards and those kind of things that kind of probably served as some sort of police force.
Soldiers.
Yeah. But it is crazy how long it takes for us to have a police force, have firefighters, like that kind of public service.
Right. And the establishment of those police forces, though they're evil, is important because one of the major things, the major developments in the true crime genre is the obsession with the detective character in the
Yeah.
detective novel.
Well, and actually, I want to go back to our earlier discussion about like what's true crime and what's not.
Yeah.
Because like, where's the line between true crime and mystery? Like, is a mystery novel included under the genre of true crime, or
Yeah.
is that the divide of nonfiction and fiction? Because in my head, not all mystery novels are true crime, and but some mysteries, like, there is overlap. And then
It's like a
like,
square rectangle
Yeah.
yeah, because
situation.
like talking about the TV shows, like I wouldn't call Law and Order or Criminal Minds a mystery TV show,
Yeah.
but if it's not nonfiction, is it true? You know, I was
Yeah.
just was thinking about
Yeah.
that more because like a lot of detective novels would be considered like mystery novels.
Yeah.
Or even like when you're adding supernatural elements too, like
Yeah.
where does it go from true crime to
Mhm.
supernatural? And like some of the stories have both of those, like it's inherent to the
Yeah.
true crime
Yeah.
story, which
Yeah.
is
Well,
interesting.
yeah, and like you said, the purists are probably going to say, no, these
Yeah.
aren't true crime. But like they find their basis in true crime.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
where they originate, even if there is fictional elements.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's the same probably internal thing that drives people to true crime, that drives people to mystery,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
It's
We
still
want a solvable
Yeah.
thing. We
Mhm.
want to hunt for the answers and believe that something terrifying and scary has answers at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that all of the genres that true crime intersects with is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, just as some examples of those kind of 1800s pieces that were like driving the genre forward, specifically in the detective character novel element, like Victor Hugo's Inspector Havart, Edgar Allan Poe's Auguste Dupin, and eventually by the turn of the century, starting kind of in like the 1890s, we get the Sherlock Holmes series, which is
Mhm.
obviously a
Yeah.
big deal. Big
Mhm.
deal.
The detective series.
He's the detective. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He's Big Daddy.
Yeah. Big Daddy Detective.
Right along with the advancements in policing that also helped to further the genre, so did advancements in science. Obviously, we have talked about before, I think in a couple episodes maybe now, how much industrialization in the 1800s actually ended up affecting different media that was produced.
Mhm.
Industrialization in the 1800s affected advancements in science, and advancements in science also helped to propel the genre of true crime, because in real courtrooms, decisions about innocence and guilt were no longer reliant on like divine justice, but were rather reliant on human intelligence and the human ability to solve something that had happened through the use of investigation. And that felt like something that people could join in on and were fascinated by and wanted to be participants in through consuming true crime.
Well, the advancements in the examination of evidence and that kind of aspect of crime in general fascinates me because, like, what is the next DNA? Like, what is the next thing that is going to be like the ultimate? You can't, like, there's no contesting that this is the. And now we know, like, DNA does have a little bit more, like, more flaws than we think it does. But, like, what's the next piece to that puzzle? Like, the next fingerprint, the next, you know?
I mean, there'll be something. There's always going to be scientific advancements, and at the same time, sometimes I feel like the science doesn't quite catch up to the
Mhm.
expectation of the science.
Yeah.
Like, I do know from researching that there was a lot of wrongful convictions in the 20th century in
Mhm.
particular,
Mm-hmm.
when the field of forensics was still really young. And yet, even though people knew that some of the decisions were faulty, a lot of politicians were like, we're
Yeah.
not soft on crime. We won't be soft on crime. Like, questioning the science gets into a weird territory of
Mm-hmm.
being potentially sympathetic
Mhm.
to criminals, even though it's not. So there's like bringing the science into it and trying to take these human actions and make them as black and white as possible. It gets
Mhm.
really messy. It gets messy within the fiction, it gets messy in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the mid 1900s, the genre is starting to grow because of the ability for new media to be introduced, right? So
Mhm.
we have the popularity of true crime books growing and growing throughout the 1500s to 1800s. By mid 1900s, there is true crime magazines like True Detective, which was a magazine from the 1940s. What's really interesting about True Detective is that it was super popular, first of all. Like, millions of copies sold
Mhm.
popular of this
Wow.
serialized true crime magazine, and the covers almost always featured these pulp art style
Mm.
female victims, like women
Mm-hmm.
who were just like, one copy she's bound and gagged, one copy
Yeah.
she's hanging, one copy she's crumpled up over a bathtub, like,
Yeah.
it's just like their wide-eyed horror, like almost like a fetishization
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
women on the cover, which is really interesting because they were so popular. Some serial killers like Dennis Rader, BTK, and Ted Bundy have actually claimed at times the detective magazines and the tied up ladies on the cover were sexually formative for them.
Yeah, I've heard
That's
that multiple.
Yeah.
that's
It is
disgusting.
disgusting. Well, and it kind of begs the question, like, art imitating life, imitating art, imitating life. Like, with the true crime being so prolific and all of these early iterations, like the True Detective magazine, would we not have a Dennis Rader if these didn't exist? Or is Dennis Rader still going to be Dennis Rader?
Yeah, and it's also crazy to think about it when you hear something like that as being cyclical, right?
Yes.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
Ted Bundy ingests this true crime fervor, this media made from this obsession that fetishizes these victims, and then now how much Ted Bundy media is there out
Oh,
there?
yeah, for sure. There's been, I would say, a decent amount of people who say they admire him, or not decent amount of people in general, a decent amount of crime committers, murderers, that are inspired by Ted Bundy for multiple reasons.
Yeah, not just like people who like consume media about him, but he has like devotees, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
so now is some little kid out there watching a Ted Bundy documentary way too young and learning about the horrible things he did to his victims and
Mhm.
being influenced by that? Is that becoming formative for someone else?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the really important pieces that I read for this episode was a book called Savage Appetites: True Stories of Women, Crime, and Obsession by Rachel Monroe. And the kind of thesis of her book is that when we consume true crime literature and media, we put ourselves oftentimes into one of four roles. You are either detective, victim, defender, or killer.
Mm.
One of those roles you are empathizing with, you are desiring, you
Hmm.
are motivated by. And how absolute that is, I don't know, but it's a really interesting way to think about,
Yeah.
because I do think that there is influence
Mhm.
Yeah.
from these works. But moving on from that rise of pulpy crime magazines, I think that like the real father of the genre, the kickoff of the current renaissance we're in, because we've taken it to a different level in the past 80 years. But Truman Capote releases In Cold Blood in 1966, and I haven't actually read that one, but I know it's prolific. Do you guys?
Yeah.
I just got it from Independent Bookstore
Oh my
Day. Yeah.
I read it in high school because it was one of those books from the long list of like
Ah,
whatever books you could choose.
like the AP list or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I read In Cold Blood and Devil in the White City.
Devil in the White City's H.H. Holmes. Is that who that's about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know that In Cold Blood was one of those books that just like flew off the shelves
Yeah.
at the time that it was published.
Yeah, because he's kind of like Truman Capote, like the father of true crime, but also kind of that like narrative nonfiction style. I do think that he's received criticism. I mean, Truman Capote himself has received criticism on many levels.
Yeah.
But like for this work, for some of it not necessarily actually being factual, which is kind of interesting with that true crime
Yeah.
label, like where
Yeah.
you put that. Yeah.
And I think that there's been a lot of true crime, especially I think older true crime books that
Yeah.
have been a light has been shown on them in that way, where it's like, what are we
Yeah.
stretching?
Yeah.
What's actually truth?
Things are embellished.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes,
say,
yes.
I can totally see as an author being like, well, this was a little bit more boring than I thought.
Yes.
Or you only know one person's perspective. How can you get in the mind of the victim?
Yes.
You can't.
Yeah.
So like how do you write that? And I can totally see authors being like, I'm just going to make it up.
I mean, perhaps that's one of the problems of true crime, to kind of like spat out right off the bat, is that if you got to sell books, if you got to get viewers,
Yeah.
but yet you're trying to tell a true unquote story.
One that we read recently, Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, the murders happened a while ago, so there's not as much information out there.
Yeah. And kind of purposefully covered up and
Yeah, but I mean, even like just information on the victims, photos, journals, whatever. So it really felt like the author was like, I can't get a lot here. Why don't I focus on this detective guy? Because I have a lot of information on him. So it totally just changes the story with what kind of information you have.
For sure. And also, how hard is it then to make a victim-centric story? If it's a murder victim, you cannot talk to them.
Yeah.
You cannot ask them how they felt in certain situations.
Yeah, you're recreating their life through other people, but you're only ever seeing them through someone else. Or maybe you have access to journals. But yeah.
Well, and a lot of it, especially like books that get written about like Ed Kemper or Ted Bundy, they were interviewed. Like, they're what is the Mindhunter? Like, Mindhunter also obviously is written about like the people that they were interviewing at the time, like when the whatever that department's called that Criminal Minds is based off of, behavioral analysis,
the BAU
unit of the
Bayou.
FBI.
No, just kidding.
The Bayou, not the Bayou by me, but the Bayou by you. But you get the interviews from them. You don't know exactly what the truth is, and some of them I think are more known to be truthful or honest, and others are fully embellishing and committing to crimes that they didn't even have a part in.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's not even the author's fault sometimes. Like,
yeah, that's the other thing, is if your main source is interviews with like serial killers, psychopaths, sociopaths, because they always tell the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, you're dealing with people in such intense circumstances. Memory can be an issue. Truthfulness can be an issue. Lack of voice can be an issue. And so, the want of creators like authors or writers, producers, to embellish and to sensationalize is clearly there.
Yeah, and I was just I'm thinking more about this because going into this, I was putting fictional works with the true crime genre and like fully doing everything for this podcast episode. I was like, yeah, this is true crime. This is true crime. And the more we talk about it and the more I like think about it, I feel like there are just two different genres. Like it's true crime and then maybe it's just crime. Like maybe you'd get rid of the true. And I think maybe there's that line too of some authors who like, okay, we're going fully nonfiction. This is true crime. Who knows if they embellish? Who knows? Whatever. And then an author who takes inspiration from true crime, like some real events, and is like, but I want to do more with this.
Yeah.
And then is that where it's labeled fiction, crime novel?
Yeah.
But I
That's
think that like it's almost not so much a line as a spectrum
Yeah.
between the two. Like and obviously like the things that are purely fictive wouldn't exist. They wouldn't have a fan
Without-
base without
yeah.
true
yes,
crime.
exactly. I
think-
feel like they go
yeah.
so hand in hand because I came into
Exactly.
this with the opposite perspective of
Uh-huh.
yours, where like a true crime story is a story that is explicitly like the true
Yeah.
facts retold, whether it's a
Yeah.
documentary or a dramatization or a podcast, whatever.
Mhm.
And then you've convinced me now
Yeah.
that like
Well, and
Law and Order SVU is.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking like American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Those almost
Are
I
all
ha- I-
real.
yeah, I haven't watched the seasons in a while. It's been a very,
Yeah.
really long time. I haven't watched in its entirety. But like almost every single storyline throughout all of the seasons are inspired by real things that have happened.
Mhm. But obviously creative liberties
Yes,
taken.
and like a
Yeah.
lot more supernatural aspects and
Mhm.
a lot of meshing of the stories. But it like very clearly in the summer camp season, like it is Richard Ramirez. Like,
Mhm.
did Richard Ramirez go to summer camp? I don't know, but like
Yeah.
clearly that's who it's inspired like from.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it's interesting and I'm intrigued to see like, okay, for me personally, what do I enjoy more? Because I feel like
Let us know in the comments below what you think.
yeah, I feel like in some
you a
ways
purist?
we might get eaten alive for like lumping like Sherlock Holmes into it, which I do feel like these things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
When you're talking about trends, when you're talking about trends in media,
They all
novels,
factor in.
it all
Yeah.
does factor in because like I'm sure Sherlock Holmes wouldn't exist without
Mhm.
whatever
They fed the
crime was
trend.
exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely not without the printing press.
And also like I think that yeah, in my heart of hearts I know that they're a little separate,
Yeah.
but at the same time they are entangled enough that I think that they share an audience.
Yeah.
And when we do these episodes where we talk about trends in literature and media, I think that the question that I oftentimes come back to is, why is this a trend?
Yeah.
Why is this so popular? Why is this prolific? And
Yeah.
if you're looking at what's driving people to crime fiction versus what's driving people to true crime,
Mhm.
if we want to call them totally separate things, the motive
Yeah.
is still the same.
Yeah.
With that, like, let's talk about, we've already mentioned so many, but there is like a wealth.
Mhm.
We won't even scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Literally not even. Like
Not
this
even.
is maybe a tenth or less of what I could have done off the top of my head.
Right. But we want to name some works that are worth mentioning
Yeah.
just to ground the discussion. One that I did want to mention that I just kind of learned about, but clearly has been very popular is there's a series of books called the Scarpetta series. It's a long-running crime fiction series by Patricia Cornwell following forensic pathologist Dr. Kay Scarpetta as she solves complex murders. And it has this kind of witty, dry humor, no nonsense female detective at the heart of it. It's been running from 1990 to 2024.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
That's longer than SVU.
Patricia is still churning out the Scarpetta novels. She's very like Olivia Benson coded. So that's been a big one. But then you have also in the same category, question mark, you have something like I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is the 2018 book by Michelle McNamara about her hunt for the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
Which she's the one who coined that term.
She named him.
She's the one who kind of put it together that it wasn't 5 different people, which is crazy because she's just Joe Blow gal, Jane Blow gal who's obsessed with true crime.
She's just a civilian.
Yeah.
She's not related officially to the investigation in any way.
Yeah. I read that a while ago at this point, like maybe 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And I remember being so enthralled. Like I was like, whoa, this is, and that honestly, other than like In Cold Blood and Devil in the White City, might be one of the only like real true crime novels I had read up until that point. And I was just like, wow, this is addictive.
It was addictive for her too. She actually she talked about the way that the case kind of took her, which I think is a really interesting thing to think about when we think about true crime fans who turn into like self-insert detectives. She said, the case dragged me under quickly. Curiosity turned to clawing hunger. I was on the hunt, absorbed by a click fever that connected my propulsive tapping with a dopamine rush. Like she was full on in it.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to me that I'll Be Gone in the Dark was published posthumously. So after McNamara had passed away, and she didn't live to see the Golden State Killer identified through DNA evidence.
Way to go, Paul Holes.
But yet, like, people give her, do try to give her credit because her work, her hunt, it kept light on the case. Like, it
Yeah.
kept attention and eyes on the case, which is one really important thing that I think true crime fanaticism actually does accomplish, right? It keeps people talking about cold cases that has its complexities, but also it's important that someone's looking, right? That someone sees these people who have been killed.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Another person I think we should mention is Anne Rule, who did or wrote The Stranger Beside Me, which is about Ted Bundy. But they worked together in I think it was a suicide hotline in Seattle, which is just crazy that you could write a book from that perspective. And she does go on to like write more true crime about various other people. But I think we'd be remiss to not mention her.
That's wild to think that Ted Bundy worked
Mm-hmm.
at a suicide hotline. Like, imagine you're on the cusp of killing yourself and Ted Bundy answers.
Hello.
And then we've mentioned so many TV shows already, like Criminal Minds, Mindhunters, all the CSIs, all the Law and Orders, NCIS,
All the NCISs.
all the
'cause
NCISs,
There's multiple.
60 Minutes,
Mm-hmm.
Dateline, True Detective. Like, it just goes on and on and on. And those are the old ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we were talking about this at the beginning, I don't think that I actually ever watched any of the real true crime TV shows.
Yeah.
Like
Like
I didn't
Dateline, 48 Hours, that
I
kind of.
didn't I didn't watch any of that. I just
Yeah.
consumed the
Yeah.
fictional crime, mystery, whatever.
Well, then there's even more sensationalized. Like, I feel like these ones are pretty tame versions. There's the like Oxygen side of it where it's like Snapped and like those type of shows where are so much more sensational drama, not as much like about a killer. I mean, it is about a killer, but
Yeah. So when you have TV shows like that are like taking or the some of these movies we'll talk about, but like when you're taking true crime and you're trying to set it up as like a documentary or whatever, but then you add all that extra flair.
yeah. What
is that?
Yeah.
What are we calling that?
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't think I've ever watched Snapped. My understanding is that it is like a true story, but yeah, how much is inflamed for the script?
Well,
Like,
it's so those are Oxygen shows are so sensationalized.
yes.
It'll literally be like sexy women who kill,
Yes.
like the seductress murderer, the murderer next door. Like, it's all these, like, I don't know, it's the bodice ripper of true crime.
Yeah. Coincidentally, like I feel like Oxygen is almost exclusively made for women, but then all these shows are of women snapping. Like it's a much more woman murderer focused on that network, I feel like.
I think that it's, again, it goes into sensationalism because like we know men kill people.
Very true.
But a woman killer.
Yeah.
But it obviously, like, it runs a range depending on what you're consuming. And as we've gotten more and more into our modern era of social media, of streaming services,
Yeah.
I've seen this uptick now in like the Netflix style crime documentary or docuseries, and those have really captured people, like American Murder Story, another Ryan Murphy that's gotten a lot of flack, Dahmer,
which got a lot of
flack, Making a Murderer.
What's that Ted Bundy one called?
Yeah, the one with Zac Efron.
Yeah.
I do not remember what it's called.
That
but
one is
It's like something evil or-
yeah.
Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From 2019, and it does star Zac Efron.
Yeah. Well, and part of me as we go through these is like, haven't some of these stories been told enough? Like, don't we
for
have enough
sure.
freaking Dahmer like
Uh-huh.
material? There was another Netflix documentary. It's true crime, and basically this woman puts like a bomb around this guy's neck and tells him to rob a bank.
Yeah.
And it's like this crazy story, and most people didn't know about it until the Netflix documentary. And like, I don't know if it's important that we know about that, but I think that those stories are
Well, is it important that we know about any of these things
probably not.
in as much detail as some people know about them?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But like, I would rather have, I feel like, more of those than more Dahmers.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Not in life, to be clear.
I think some people
I
That's a
would-
dangerous
I want
soundbite,
more
Kaylin.
murder.
That's a dangerous soundbite. No, yeah, like some of these stories are just it's too much. There's too much Manson family. There's
Mhm.
too much Dahmer. There's too
Mhm.
much Bundy. Like we don't need the same stories to be
Yeah.
revisited because I feel like one of the points of defense that true crime fans would give for the genre is well, it's important to hear
Yeah.
these stories because it's awareness, right?
Yeah.
But if it's the same story over and over and over again,
Yeah.
at what point are you just is it just trauma porn?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say too, I feel like this is kind of where like you could think about the victims and do we need to tell these stories of solved cases
Yeah.
over and over and over again? Is that doing anything for the victims or the victims' families? Like, I mean, I guess in my head, because like with, you know, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, like all that work helped solve that case. So spreading awareness about cases that are ongoing, is that
Yeah.
somehow is that better?
Yeah, more ethical.
I think that's a question. Like, is it better if you're gonna make the shows, make the documentaries, make the money, if you're at least giving awareness to cold cases or ongoing investigations? Me personally, I think yes. Like, I still remember like FBI's Most Wanted and To Catch a Killer, and
Yeah.
like those shows.
And Unsolved Mysteries, right? Isn't that the one that would always do unsolved cases?
I think so.
Yeah.
But like I think that in many cases those shows did actually and a non-negligible amount those shows led to tips or to information that was genuinely helpful.
Yeah. Well, and then we have like the vein of shows that are kind of just there for comedic value. Like I have Tiger King on here, but then I was also thinking as we're talking about that, Cops. Like that's true crime, right?
Bad boys.
And that was basically just made for your family to, that was like the more risque version of like America's Funniest Home Video, you know? It was just for comedy entertainment.
Yeah, so you could like laugh at people getting
Arrested?
arrested.
Yeah. Not a great vibe for us, guys.
I feel like though where the genre has really taken off, at least for like women. I don't know. I mean, I know that there are older women who ate up those shows and people who still do, but I think at least for me, where I was introduced to true crime for real was through podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the research that I found when I was looking stuff up would take pains to mention podcasts specifically.
Yeah.
Like it's clear when we're talking about modern true crime last 15 years.
Yeah.
Podcasts have furthered the genre so much, which I hadn't thought about this before this moment, but that actually does like make some sense in part because maybe it's easier to hear about than see, right?
Yeah.
But also just like the way that then you can like passively ingest the information when you're making dinner or on your way to the store.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them are true crime comedy podcasts. They're making it palatable through jokes too. And I think a lot of them are like specifically do not make jokes about the victim or like they have parameters. And some of them are just telling a story and they have some comedic interludes. But like there are ones that are straight up crime comedy podcasts.
Yeah.
Which I've listened to. Like
I only consume one crime podcast, and when I first started listening to it, I really enjoyed it. And then I quickly realized like I don't want to hear anything that has happened after like since my parents have been born.
Yeah.
I will listen to any true crime stuff that's 1950s or earlier because I just started feeling kind of icky.
Yeah.
I still consume that podcast, but all the other ones I'm like I don't think that I need to be listening to 6 different true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
For sure. It's a lot. It's a lot of really, I don't want to be like cringe and say like bad vibes, but it's a lot of dark information to be taking in if you're listening to multiple true crime podcasts on regular rotation. But I'm glad, Larsen, that you brought up like the recency thing, because one thing that is like one of my big true crime icks is when documentaries will be popped out really quickly after a scandal. Like I'm thinking like Sherry Papini.
I was literally gonna say Sherry
Gabby
Papini.
Petito,
Yes,
like
yes.
you know, like these stories where like the case isn't even closed, and Hulu or Netflix have like thrown out some like cheaply produced 1 hour documentary just because they know people will click on it.
Yeah, it amazes me sometimes how quickly, and it's like most of this had to have been produced before like the person's caught. Like usually there's something that happens that like seems like it's more final than it is.
Yeah.
But like even if somebody's arrested, you still have a trial. Like there's a lot of things that happen
Yeah.
after that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. They will really throw them together real quick. So there's like not wanting to ingest too much recent true crime because
Mhm.
it's icky in a uncomfortable, scary way, also icky in a exploitive way.
Yeah.
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 And like I do think that some platforms are better than others, and using that platform to talk about an unsolved case, especially a more recent one, can, help things along. In
Mhm.
theory, it has happened. But there is just something about it for me that I can't consume that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I find like some podcasts do a really good job at positioning the context that like what facilitated the murder. Obviously, a
Mhm.
murderer did, but like the context around what is happening and kind of talking like how society affected it and that kind of thing. And I think that those are important conversations to have, but also can you have those conversations without talking about the true crime?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the thing in so many of the cases is that there are these ethical concerns. There are also potential benefits, but it's all rooted to the same stories.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
they're kind of not able to be untangled. Do you want to shout out the podcast real quick? What are some of the podcasts that fall under the umbrella you guys were talking about?
Sure.
The only one I listen to is Morbid.
I have listened to some of these. I haven't listened to others, but Wine and Crime, My Favorite Murder, Last Podcast on the Left, Crime Junkies, Serial. I could probably list more, but those I feel like are pretty popular ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like some of them, I had to stop listening to My Favorite Murder. I feel like they didn't care anymore. Like it felt like it was the production, which I think we're gonna talk about this a little bit later. But like it felt like they were just doing this podcast to do a podcast. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't. There
Because
wasn't
they're capitalizing on the
exactly.
popularity of the topic.
Yes, and at some point, it's like, are you even doing research? Are you just reading the Wikipedia page? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like there's any care with some of these podcasts, and then other ones I think do an okay job. I think how you're depending on what your perspective is on true crime in general. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
But we're talking kind of about naturally getting into a kind of the area of exploitation. And I think that's I mean, obviously they're the movies, the podcasts, the books, they're all gonna run a spectrum.
Mhm.
They're not gonna be created equal. Some of them are going to try to take a really careful approach to telling the stories. Some of them are just creating the content because the content sells.
Yeah.
And obviously that care does take down the exploitative factor. But I think that one point that I wanted to make just in listing a handful of examples of true crime literature and media, again, barely scratching the surface, is that there's a lot here. There's a lot here. And the reason there's a lot here is because true crime sells.
Yeah,
There's a
there's a market for
capitalism.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a capitalism to it all. I mean, we mentioned oxygen briefly, and something that's really fascinating is that it wasn't until the early 2010s that Oxygen actually was even a crime network, right? We know it now as it's a crime network, but
Mhm.
originally Oxygen was a cable TV channel that targeted a young female demographic with forgettable high drama shows, names like Last Squad Standing and Bad Girls Club. But when the struggling network began airing a dedicated true crime block in 2015, they saw their viewership increase by 42%. And by 2017, the network had completely rebranded and
Mhm.
adopted revised programming priorities.
And they started doing true crime podcasts.
Does Oxygen have true crime podcasts
They
too?
did have at least
They were like,
one.
we see those podcasts.
Mhm.
We see
We need to tap into that part.
tap into that
Yeah.
market. They saw where the money was going, and the
Yeah.
money was following the murder. The money follows the murder sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's just like the money that can be made from the viewership or from the listeners. That's not even getting into all of like the merchandise or the
Mhm.
memorabilia. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know who goes to Hallmarks in person anymore, but when I was a kid,
Do they have hallmarks in person anymore?
they did. You could go into a Hallmark store and you could buy a chuggy gift for someone.
Yeah.
And I'm just picturing the wall of wine glasses that would say things like wine and crime or
Yeah.
like Manson's
Between the wine
girl.
mom glasses and the
Exactly. The t-shirts. the keychains, even things like the tourism industry around places where
Yeah.
crimes have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is so much money to be made from tapping into this ginormous fan base. And if there is so much money to be made, can it be ethical? Because you can't make that money unless a crime
Has been committed.
has been committed.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Or unless you are imagining that a crime has been committed. Even if you're something like a Criminal Minds where okay, it's not about a real case necessarily, you are taking inspiration
Mhm.
from real cases and real suffering and real
Yeah.
victims and their families. And is this not blood money?
I think it might be the
Literally.
definition.
Yeah. Can't really talk about it without talking about the root of all evils, the daddy war books of it all.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, with the capitalism of it all, like, I tell myself, like, oh, yeah, I don't consume any of that. Like, I don't buy that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, wait, you did just go on a dark history tour in
Yes.
Boston. And, like, it was mostly history, not all murders, whatever.
Mhm.
But, like, that's still in the same field. That's still,
Yeah.
I'm participating in the capitalism of true crime.
Well, in CrimeCon, that's a huge money maker. All conventions, they
Yeah.
cost a lot of money. There's a lot of people there. There's a lot of things to buy.
What is CrimeCon?
I'm
It's a
glad you
convention
yeah.
of all things crime.
No, I'm so glad that you brought up CrimeCon because that was something that I had in my notes as well to talk about. But CrimeCon is a convention, kind of like Comic-Con,
Mm-hmm.
right? For lovers of a certain genre. Except CrimeCon is for lovers of the true crime genre. In Savage Appetites, the book that I mentioned by Rachel Monroe, she actually goes to the 2018 CrimeCon.
Mhm.
She's boots on the ground, and she talks about some of the phenomenons that were so clear when she was there
Mhm.
at this massive gathering of true crime obsessives. Number one, the majority of the people there were women. And number two, she kind of talks about the cognitive dissonance that becomes so clear in the consuming of true crime because it is entertainment, but it is dark. And so you have to distance yourself sometimes from the reality of the content. She says, my weekend at CrimeCon was a crimey blur. I went to a panel on profiling and a demonstration on a new DNA extraction technique by a forensic scientist who appears on Dr. Oz's True Crime Tuesdays.
Dr. Oz.
What? This man needs to stay in
What?
his lane.
Exactly, right? You're like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? Then she says, I was handed a card listing 11 signs you may be dealing with a psychopath. Number 9, lack of realistic, not long-term goals. You're like, am I a psychopath? I browsed but did not purchase greeting cards featuring a birthday message from the Manson girls. Quote, Charlie says to wish you a happy birthday, and we do everything Charlie tells us to do. And then she continues, just immediate topic change. I cried a little bit as 3 of the Golden State Killer's surviving victims celebrated the arrest of a suspect after more than 30 years. I listened to a ridiculously handsome former CIA agent claim that anyone who had been to a foreign country had been in a life-threatening situation. I was exhorted to sign up for an online course on how to, quote, not be a victim, presented by Nancy Grace. And it goes on and on and on.
Wow.
So it is like a capitalistic hellscape, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like booths with buttons that have Manson or Bundy's face on it. These birthday cards. People kind of like the way she describes is people throwing cards in her hands, trying to get
Mhm.
her sign up for courses. But then at the same time, scientific presentations on profiling, on DNA, and then like something as real and as touching as listening to actual victims um talk about how meaningful it is to have the killer caught, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
to have the person who attacked them caught. It's just to me very cognitively dissonant. Like you're really
Yeah.
splitting things up in your brain there and putting it into little boxes.
Well, to add to that, Paul Holes, who is the person who did the forensics to tie all the Golden State Killer stuff together, I believe he was also at this CrimeCon, and the like internet meme came about of holes for holes, which is like
What?
people wanting to like fuck Paul Holes, like, which is just
You can't see Larsen's face, but
it's disgusting.
it's priceless.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, right along with that,
A new type of crazy thing like CrimeCon is Crime Wave at Sea, which is a cruise. The first one was last year. My understanding, it's live podcast episodes in addition to like panels like you're talking about with CrimeCon. And it was such a hit. It is happening again. I'm afraid of cruises because of true crime podcasts. Those are lawless lands.
Yeah, how many people have been fucking murdered on
Yeah,
cruises?
well, and there's like no recourse because they're all registered in like these countries that aren't where
Open
they're
waters.
porting. Yeah.
Wow, crime wave. Why go to a swinger cruise when you could go to crime cruise?
I fear those Venn diagram circles are really, really close.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the number one attendees of something like Crime Con or Crime Wave, they're women. And I think on the surface, some might think that that's perplexing because the vast majority of violent crimes are committed by men. Most murder victims, also male. Homicide detectives and criminal investigators, predominantly male. Attorneys in criminal cases, also mostly men. So if you kind of put it simply, the world of violent crime is masculine, at least statistically. But the consumers of crime stories are decidedly female. Women make up the majority of the readers of true crime books and the listeners of true crime podcasts. Television executives and writers, forensic scientists and activists, and exonerees all agree true crime is a genre that overwhelmingly appeals to women. One statistic even put it at 73% of true crime podcast listeners are women, while a 2010 study from the University of Illinois found that 70% of Amazon reviews on true crime books are by women. The idea of women being the largest audience for true crime has been supported widely. And Michael Boudet, who hosts the popular true crime podcast Sword and Scale, said that 70% of his fans are women between specifically the ages of 25 and 45. So obviously there is something to talk about here. Women are the majority fan base, but why?
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised it's not over 73% of listeners of true crime podcasts are women. Like that feels low to me.
And I already mentioned it, but one of the things that this was a question that I felt really particularly drawn in by. Like, we all know, I think, if we think about true crime in the back of our mind, that the picture of a true crime stan is a woman, probably a 25 to 45-year-old woman. But why? Why is it
Yeah.
that the genre that is kind of horrifying and sometimes gory and kind of scary, the number one fan is women? In the book, like I said, that I mentioned before, Savage Appetites, True Stories of Women, Crime, and Obsession, there's kind of 4 different roles that women can place themselves into, according to Rachel Monroe, and they kind of lose themselves in the true crime genre through either being detective, victim, defender, killer, maybe some blur of all in between. But I don't know, what do you guys think about the fact that statistically we're leading the charge?
I think because like a lot of men perceive women consuming true crime as they're planning to murder them, which I don't think is true. I don't think that that's why women are consuming true crime.
No.
I think for the most part it is the detective aspect. There is something that needs to be solved, or the victim and defender aspect.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of women can see themselves in the victims, especially a lot of the stories I think that are told, and a lot of the serial killers are doing sex crimes of sorts to their victims in addition to killing them, or like only they might not be killing them, but they might be committing some sort of like sex crime.
Right.
But like you said, most murder victims are men.
Yeah, and I wonder if you like get into the nitty gritty of that statistic, if you filter out certain acts.
Like one man killing one man versus serial killer.
Yeah, or even like gang related activity
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
You know, if you filter it down, then what does it become? What are the actual statistics? Because like women are very very often murdered.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
No, women are not to take away from the statistics of how often women are murdered in about to say an inappropriate amount.
I would say it is
Well,
an inappropriate
oh my
amount.
gosh.
and just because I'm thinking of like, I think that a lot of women listen to true crime not because they necessarily see themselves as a victim,
Yeah.
but because they are, all women understand that we are so easily able to become the victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, every woman understands the feeling of like walking alone
Mhm.
in the dark, or like getting in your car, immediately locking it, feeling like someone's following you. Like, all of those things are universal for
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that that's a really good place for like diving into it further. I think that the two roles that are the most credible are detective and victim. And
Mhm.
and speaking about victim first, I think that the simplistic view would be like we just see ourselves as the victim.
Mhm.
We empathize with the victim. But I think that the collective experience that Larsen is talking about is more powerful than just like a one-to-one direct empathy.
Mhm.
I will say Ronald Reagan,
I was like, come on, you got to quote him with your full chest.
hate that man. Hate that man. Ronald Reagan did say during a task force on victims of crime hearing in 1982, the victim is every victim. She could be you or related to you.
Yeah.
Like this is a pervasive idea that we ingest true crime because we can see something of ourselves
Mhm.
in the victim. Now, although the majority of murder victims are men, women are murdered, like I said, too much.
Yeah. I personally know 2 women that were murder suicided by their husband.
2 women?
2 women.
That's insane that you personally
Completely
know
different
multiple.
incidents. Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah. Plus, my grandpa was a firefighter, and another local firefighter, wife and his daughter were murdered by the I-5 killer. I feel like if you think about it long enough, everybody knows someone
Everybody
who's
knows somebody
been
who's been murdered.
murdered. Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah.
In 2017, there were 1,867 familial relationships of victims to offenders based on the homicide data of that year.
Mhm.
110 husbands were killed by their wives. 549 wives were killed by their husbands.
Wow.
And then the rest are, different types of family. And then of the other kind of relationship 181 boyfriends were murdered by their girlfriends. 488 girlfriends were killed by their boyfriends.
So like four times ish on both statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are a woman, the person you're most likely to be murdered by is
Mhm.
your partner if they're male.
Yeah. And it increases when you're pregnant, and it increases when you're trying to leave a relationship. There's a lot of really negative things that happen to women.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, it reminds me. That statistic reminds me of that kind of oft repeated quote that men are most afraid that
Mm.
women will laugh at them. Women are most
Mhm.
afraid that men will kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might have mentioned this on another episode, but workplace deaths for men are
Workplace deaths. Like,
yes, they're
Yeah.
they're an accident, like a piece of equipment fell on them or whatever.
or even like a heart attack or
Yes,
something.
yeah. But workplace deaths for women are being murdered by their significant other, which is just insane.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. So fear, I think, is a really important factor when we talk about what drives women
Mm-hmm.
to this genre
Mhm.
because we live in this world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We done been new
Yeah.
that men are this way, that the world treats us this way, that we live in a patriarchy that is going to make us vulnerable. Monroe writes about her girlhood saying, I was beginning to realize that I was on the cusp of coming into a terrible kind of power, a power that was also a vulnerability, that being in this world would soon feel very different.
Mhm.
And I think it's not so much seeing us in the victims of true crime media that draw women in, so much it is knowing that we could be the victim, right? There is could be empathy there, but it's less like I'm fascinated because she is me, and it's more like she is all of us women.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ronald Reagan was onto something there. I think that might be the only time I say that.
No, still no. So that's kind of the first role that women as an audience take on. The forced upon them role of victim.
Mhm.
But then there's also detective, and both related to both are fear. I
Mhm.
did see it in at least one article. It said that we obsess over true crime because it's a catharsis for fear.
Mhm.
One way you can do that is by acknowledging the need for there to be a fear, the scary thing, which comes in the wake of knowing the world is dangerous. But the other way that, we can interact with fear is to try to fight it. And I think that's where the role of detective comes in for a lot of women fans of true crime. True crime can help the reader, watcher, listener acknowledge the kind of sexualized and violent menace of the world while offering a way to navigate it. Because
Mhm.
when you, as a woman, dive into the genre, you look up the clues, you leave comments
Yeah.
on the podcast, you
You
hop
start
into
to see trends.
yes, you
Yeah.
start to see trends. You listen to enough that you're unwrapping the
Yeah.
mystery.
You feel like you're somehow a member of the behavioral analysis
You're
unit.
talking at the TV. Yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah.
literally. You're like, wait, I know who it is. You're taking on the role of detective, and what that does is, in the face of potentially paralyzing horror and fear, instead of being passive, you're active.
Mhm.
You've got a job to do.
Mhm.
And I think that that creates, I'm going to say, a false sense of power, because it is a power over
Yeah.
your fear, over your own fear of the way of the world as a woman. But it creates a sense of power that makes it perhaps easier to interact with real crime.
Yeah. That's an interesting. I mean, because obviously, like Michelle McNamara, this is the kind of category she falls
Yeah,
into,
for
right?
sure.
So there are people who are doing good work that are helping solve crimes, and then there's the people who are just kind of consuming and getting this knowledge base. Like, I think I follow the category I'm trying to describe now, but like
Yeah.
I have so much random true crime knowledge in my head. I'm not doing anything with it. It's just been consumed. But I guess every now and then I do think like, okay, well, yeah, I gotta put my keys in between my knuckles when I walk in that. But I think we're all doing that anyway, with or
Yeah.
without true
Mhm.
crime.
Oh, for sure. For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. That fear factor, it does have a magnetism to it though. Sometimes it's like, am I afraid of this, or am I drawn
Yeah.
to it? And I think that is what can turn people from, oh no, I could be the victim, into I am a detective. It's that like almost push towards, I don't want to say extremism, because I don't think these people are necessarily extreme.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if you're taking up large hours of your life to try to solve cold cases,
Hmm.
or you're listening to a surplus of hours of this content in your regular week because you feel like you are actively participating in the solving of something,
Hmm.
that is maybe not extreme, but it's intense.
Yeah.
It's intense, and that takes you to a different place. British sociologist Robin Williams coined a phrase for the seductive promise that shows such as CSI gives us and that feeds that frenzy. He called it the forensic imaginary.
Mm.
It's the idea that all events are knowable and can be reconstructed from forensic evidence. And I think that plays into another
Hmm.
factor of why people love and obsess over true crime, which is the idea that they present us with narratives that are very often solvable.
Yeah. Well, kind of on that note, I've definitely told my dad many a times when he's like told me to like be safe out there, kid. Be like, they're not gonna get away with murdering me. Like, I'll leave an earring. I'll take a good bite out of them. Their DNA will be in my stomach, under my nails. Like, there will be clues to point you in the right direction. I don't think that's very healthy to think about.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never thought about that.
I have.
I've thought about like, okay, how would I get out of a certain situation? How would I fight back or whatever?
Mhm.
I've never thought about leaving clues.
Yeah. I've listened to a lot more
And,
true crime
well, I was
podcasts.
gonna say maybe I just assume like you'll survive.
Yeah. But if I don't, he's
Yeah.
gonna get got.
And then some true crime fanatic will
They
be
will solve the murder.
solving your
Yeah.
murder right along
Mhm.
with the TV screen.
Exactly.
But I think
And
that
then 2 days after the murderer is caught, an HBO series will come out.
Only if it's
would you
juicy
want me
enough
to
though.
watch, or would you want me to
I just
not
bit
watch?
his arm enough that my teeth are in his
I'm
skin and his DNA's in my tummy.
I mean, I feel like there's so many people murdered every single
Oh, for
year.
sure. For sure.
I'm sure a lot of them fight back.
Yeah. And I do think I would want you to watch.
Yeah. You'd want me to
If,
watch?
if anything, not me get murdered, but the documentary.
Right.
And if anything, just to add to the conversation.
Oh, for sure. Follow-up episode. If Kaylin gets murdered. No, but to take it back, the promise of a solution that true crime as a genre often gives. I mean, obviously there's like cold case shows and stuff like that. But even those, they present the narrative oftentimes in a way where it's like it could be solved if we follow along.
Mm-hmm.
That promise of a solution to acts of violence that for so many of us we can't begin to comprehend, the mysteries, the tragedies, it's inherently appealing. Like we know psychologically humans, we love a mystery and we love to be the one to solve it, which is why the hunt for the solution is also so appealing.
Yes.
Sometimes honestly I think that these things are less of a whodunit than a whydunit. Just trying to take something that we can't understand, a senseless act of violence, and give it sense. Make it a problem we can solve versus a horrific tragedy.
Well, and it's almost like the behavioral analysis of it all is kind of like giving a reason for the thing to happen. Like the more that we know about serial killers and the more about like how we get to be a serial killer, right? Is you're playing the detective, right? I mean, the more we know, the more we know, and we can categorize better and we can reason better with it's not everybody, it's just these crazy serial killers, but also like how did we get here and kind of how to identify these things.
And also we can beat them.
Yes.
If we know them, we can beat them. Because you know what? The serial killer is far less scary than the one you don't. It's fear of the known and it's fear of the unknown. Fear is really central there, but I think that just looking at the difference helps explain why television programs, podcasts, books about violent death can feel strangely soothing. They teach us that even the most kind of senseless crimes can be interpreted and ultimately explained. There was one other piece of the women are the majority audience of true crime discussion that I really wanted to bring up, which is the stereotype, actually, that women are drawn into the genre because of trauma and the need people feel to discover why women are so drawn to the genre, right? I think that motive is a really fascinating word in the realm of true crime because obviously that has real world implications, but it's also motive behind the viewership, motive behind the audience. And one of the things that people say for why so many women are drawn to stories of death is trauma. And especially in the case of fictional detectives, like crime procedurals and crime novellas, which are often saddled with tragic explanatory backstories. Think Olivia Benson, who is the steely yet vulnerable sex murder investigator of SVU. She's the daughter of a rape victim. In the Patricia Cornwell case Scarpetta novels that I mentioned, she was scarred by the death of her father and was herself the victim of several near rapes. These detectives at the heart of these stories, these female detectives, they were initiated into a kind of darkness against their will by force, and now the darkness lives inside of them, or so the trope goes in many cases. And then the subtext there is that if you're a woman who's inexorably drawn to murder stories, that there's got to be something wrong with you. There's to be some terrible reason why you consume these stories. And we talked about this a little bit back, even with the villains in crime procedurals. We try to assign them a motive, even if it's an improbable motive, attempting to address the big why at the core of every murder story. And I think that this is going to go back even further to the very beginning of this section on women when Larsen kind of brought up the collective experience that we all have as women. But a few years ago, researchers at West Virginia University asked female forensic students what drew them to the field. Most said they had an early interest in science. Others talked about wanting to help people. But many, many, many cited another reason: past experience of trauma. At first, this seems to fit with that like broad cultural stereotype and script that insists that women who are interested in stories of violence have to be because of their own history of violation. Except that the women in the survey clarified that they weren't just talking about harm that had been done to them personally, but that they were considering societal trauma. And there's this idea that pain doesn't have to be personal to be a motivating force. Fear doesn't have to be personal to be a motivating force. You don't have to be the victim yourself to care.
Mm-hmm.
The fans of like true crime have had trauma because we're all the victims as women of a collective trauma. And as people, we've all witnessed and been in close proximity to violence,
Yeah.
as we already mentioned.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you mentioned like Olivia Benson and that origin story, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like most men detectives in this realm, fictional or non-fictional, it is the non-personal or the societal trauma that drives them to do, like, that's the story that's told about those detectives, on the flip side of the women being personal trauma.
Yeah. And I think about it too, like in modern times with social media, there's violence like casually played out on
Mm-hmm.
our phone screens all the
Yeah.
time. I think
Yeah.
about like collective trauma. I think about like Palestine and
Yeah.
the way that like we're so unfortunately desensitized to seeing like horrific acts being done to people, and it's just broadcasted in this way.
Mm-hmm.
We all become participants whether we want to or not in violence and in crime. So like who can really blame women as a whole for wanting to not participate passively?
Yeah. Wow, that's a deep one, Alexis.
But at the same time, we've been dancing around all episode the ethical concerns,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like we can't really close out the conversation without mentioning some of the pitfalls of this
Mm-hmm.
massive genre slash set of genres. Like
Mm-hmm.
we said,
Yeah.
there's several layers to true crime or what could be connected to true crime, and there's um there's issues with the genre as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the most glaring one is just the tying it back to capitalism and trying to profit off of someone's death or the pain of someone's family. Like, it can get icky so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do know that the Ethic Center uh wrote an article specifically kind of about that, about the ethics behind profiting. And they said that creators of true crime art have a responsibility to the families of victims. And the reason for that responsibility is twofold. Firstly, these stories would devastatingly not have happened if it were not for the victims.
Yeah.
And also, in the worst and most painful ways, serial killers like, say, Jeffrey Dahmer are who they are in part because of the people that he killed.
Mm-hmm.
His story is their story. And any Hollywood creative who tells that story and makes a dime is profiting off the pain of the victims. So, for instance, like Ryan Murphy, who
Yeah.
created,
Mm-hmm.
American Crime Story, American Horror Story,
yeah,
which
yeah,
both profit off of true crime.
and also Monster, which is the one that stars Evan Peters, where
Mm.
Evan Peters plays Dahmer. He has a net worth of 150 million, and Evan Peters has a net worth of 4 million, and both of them enjoyed a significant amount of financial success from Monster. That the second order victims, that's the family of victims or people who knew victims, that's what we would consider like second order,
Mm-hmm.
that they have not. Right?
Yeah.
They
Mm-hmm.
actually made money off of it that then second order victims didn't see.
Well, and a lot of that too is like you're just giving that person more airtime. And
Yeah.
a lot of
Attention.
those, especially depraved serial killers, they want that attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is, there's a difference between serial killers and one off murderers, and, true crime covers all of those types of things. Not everybody wants all that extra airtime, but a lot of these shows, podcasts, movies, whatever, are, whether their intention is there or not, are giving these predators, murderers
A
more.
platform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more. And even if it's trying to be phrased as like a platform for the victim,
Yeah.
that's just not going to be ever be the case, really.
Yeah. Well, and I know that there's some podcasts. I believe Crime Junkie is one of these. I haven't listened in a while, but they actively like try to give back to victims, to the families, try to give the families a voice,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is good work. But also there's so many podcasts out there that don't do any of that
Mm-hmm.
and are still like people that have quit their jobs because their podcast is so successful about murder. Like, it is a really interesting examination, I guess, of the ethics. And I think a lot of them are respectful, but a lot of them are also comedy podcasts. And like, there's only so many jokes you can make while you're talking about somebody else's murder or multiple murders.
Yeah. And I find it interesting. And I think this happens obviously more with serial killers, but like the name of the show or whatever is the murderer's name.
Yeah.
So people think of the crimes and they think of the murderer. They don't even know the victims' names.
I don't know any of Ted Bundy's victims' names.
I know.
I don't know any of Ed Gein's victims' names.
Like, there are some that, like the one we brought up earlier, Gabby Petito, like, we all know her name, but I remember watching that go down on TikTok.
People doing drone footage over the parents' house.
And yeah, I do remember that a part of the conversation there was one of the other ethical concerns that we could justly have with true crime, which is about the racial attitudes, right? Like, even when it's not directly addressed, race is oftentimes an unspoken presence in true crime that gets glossed over.
I was going to say this earlier when we were kind of talking about like what stories are told and why there's not as much news articles and other media about certain people's murders because they're not white young women. And then that continues to perpetuate the fact that young white women are getting the spotlight. And I think a lot of podcasts or television shows actively try to combat that. But I think in those cases, then you have like one episode about missing and murdered Indigenous women instead of like
focusing on individuals.
Yes, yeah, and they kind of get grouped together and
tokenized.
And like their story is still not really being told.
And I wonder if that's just like another like a down the line symptom of like our system, police system, judicial system not putting effort into those cases, so there's just not as much evidence.
Yeah, there's the less dead is
And speaking of the policing system, that's another ethical concern with true crime, is there's a close proximity of true crime with the romanticization of policing.
Yes.
The Ethics Center said, our obsession is coming at a time when we are more able than ever to educate ourselves on the crooked and fundamentally broken nature of the police force. Most true crime borders on copaganda, saturating the populace with the myth that most police officers are inventive, savvy, able to string together clues, rather than the truth that they're overfunded, funded in the wrong places in the wrong ways, inadequate mental health professionals at best, and the violent arm of the state at worst.
I would say too that I feel like a lot of that propaganda, as you said, comes up more in the fictional crime world. That's like obviously rampant, that all the shows are about how wonderful these investigative organizations are.
Yeah.
I do feel like there are at least a lot of the true crime that I have consumed, there is often a line of like, the police were just not doing shit, or they fumbled this or whatever.
Yeah. Morbid does a great job at not subscribing to the propaganda.
Yeah. But I do think it is kind of easy to fall into that because like they are the ones leading the whole investigation.
Yes. In like credit where credit's due to some extent, but there's also like the Last Prisoner project that is actively working to get falsely prosecuted people out of jail. And I mean that the whole documentary we're talking earlier, the Netflix documentary Making a Murder, that's all about that. And like the Central Park 5, like there's so many instances of we just need to catch someone. And like the part that I don't get about that is like, if you're not getting the right guy, you're not getting the right guy. Like they're still out there. What are we? You're not. Nobody's benefiting from this, especially not the person that you're putting in jail that does not deserve or belong in jail.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly there's a lot of ethical issues with true crime, and it's not a genre that's going to go away. But I do feel like as a body of people who drive the consumption, like we can be more cognizant of what we consume and at least try to choose media that is attempting to do better, to be more ethical. Because if we continue to consume the trash, like it's gonna keep being produced.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and that goes back to the capitalism of it all. Like if we put
Exactly.
our viewership behind works that we think are well done, that are meaningful,
Mhm.
that are helpful, and also entertaining, because obviously people aren't going to watch it if it's not entertaining to some
Mhm.
degree, then there can be some shift. And maybe that is part of why, with all of these podcasts that have come out and driven things forward recently, as in the last decade, like a lot of those podcasts, I think, are the ones who are handling things with more nuance
Mhm.
Yeah.
and with more care
Yes.
and are sensationalizing less.
Certainly less than like the documentary miniseries Netflix type
The
stuff.
oxygen of it all.
Yeah.
The oxygen
Yeah,
of it all.
like you're saying, just like in this capitalistic hellscape, we can only do so much, and a lot of that is how we spend our dollars. It's how you pay attention. Like, it's pay attention for a reason. Like, you are paying with everything that you consume, and consume the things that are the most productive, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and think about it, right? Like, we're certainly not telling anybody not to be a true crime fan
Mhm.
or ingest this media, but it's more like look at it from all angles. Be a
Mhm.
detective
Yeah.
of your own motives, so to speak.
We want to hear what you have to say. Let us know what true crime you're consuming, what true crime you hate. Do you think true crime is also includes fiction, or is it
Yeah.
just the true stories that are told?
Please tell us how you would define the genre. We're still a little on the fence.
Yeah, I've been convinced, and then what's the opposite of convinced?
Yeah, I've unconvinced
Yeah,
myself.
yes, multiple times throughout this episode. So let us know if that's a common listener experience.
If you're a lover of true crime, a hater of true crime, like feel like we can all join in on this conversation. So please leave us a comment.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening.
We hope you keep reading The Room with us.
So keep checking back for more episodes every Monday and Thursday that dive into the spaces where literature, media, and culture meet.
Please reach out to us at readtheroom@cultureclub@gmail.com for feedback and topic suggestions.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at readtheroom_culture club for the most up-to-date podcast information.
If you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen.
And remember to take up space in whatever room you're in, except for CrimeCon. Just don't go.
Thanks.